For those of you guys joining us, before we get into our discussion with Mr. Sloan, I'd like to just share with you a little bit about who we are, who Hayes Software is. So we've been in business for 30 years, and we specifically serve K-12 school districts, and our bread and butter is asset management. We serve over 400 districts nationally, roughly 7,700 schools, and 36 of the top 100 largest districts out there in the U.S. So in addition to the larger size districts, we also work with a lot of smaller size districts. I like to share that because we're fully scalable to really whatever your needs are. The smallest school system we work with today is a small refugee school based out of Georgia with 170 students. So most of the customers that we have that are working with us, that we work with today, there were 5 main things, I guess, let's call them pain points, where they were trying to solve for. We've got them here on the screen right now. First one, maximizing existing resources. Obviously want to make sure that they don't have a bunch of Chromebooks or iPads sitting in storage in a school that could be utilized at a different school. Also minimize the cost of replacing lost assets, more accurately forecasting for future purchases. Very important, ensuring that staff and students have access to the materials that they need to succeed. And then last but not least, usually the hottest one is responding to audits with reliable data. That's obviously very important in case you get a visit from the Title I ferry unexpectedly. You want to make sure you're prepared for those type of visits. So now that you know a little bit about who Hayes is, forgive me, I should have probably introduced myself formally, as well as my colleague Kristen. So my name is Chuck Mancuso. I've been with Hayes for about 1.5 years now. I'm a national account manager for the Southeast region. And then I'll let Kristen go ahead and introduce herself really quick, and then we'll introduce our guest.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kristen. I've been with the company for almost 5 years now, and I share the state of Georgia with Chuck, so I'm excited to be here. I'll be handling the chat, so just keep in mind, we want to make this communicative as possible. So talking back and forth, asking questions. We're lucky to have a current customer on the phone to provide, best practices. So we really want it to be a huge learning experience for everybody. So any questions you have, feel free to type them into the chat. I'll make sure to get addressed during the presentation. Yeah, and feel free to introduce yourself too, but we're looking forward to it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kristen. So with that being said, I'd like to also introduce you to our guest speaker from Gilchrist County, Mr. John Sloan. John, would you mind just sharing with the folks a little bit about Gilchrist and a little bit about how long you've been with the district and what you do for the district?
Sure. My name is John. Our district, we're definitely a smaller district compared to, compared to the school you were describing in Georgia, we're pretty big, I guess. And it's, but we have, right now, I work out of one of the 2 high schools in the district, and we have technology people in the other high school that handle that end. So, but with the software, we have it set up for each one of our four schools. We have 2 elementary schools and then 2 middle/high schools that go from 6th grade to 12th grade. And our computers, let's see, we basically have each student in high school has their own laptop issued by the district that they bring home every night. In middle school, we have the CART laptops, all Windows based. And then let me think something else here. But I mean, that's really kind of where we are. We're on the smaller side of things, but still good.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Appreciate you being on here today. So, so you're stationed at one of the middle high schools, if I remember correctly?
Correct, which is how our district is set up. We have the middle high school, and then probably about maybe it's walking distance, like, maybe a quarter mile at most to the elementary school. So it's like during the summer, our elementary school techs are 10-month employees, whereas we are 12, year-round employees. So it's kind of, we have to pick up some of the stuff for the elementary school during the summer break, and that's why I'll use TipWeb to handle a lot of stuff that's going on over at the elementary school too.
Excellent. Looking forward to continuing the conversation on that piece. So for those of you tuning in today, as we go through this, just keep in mind that Hays software, our asset management system, is really designed to keep track of the full life cycle of every single asset in the district. Virtually any asset that you want to put a barcode on. It doesn't necessarily have to be devices. It could be document cameras, printers, projectors. I mean, heck, we even have a district in Missouri that uses it to keep track of buses. So the system can keep track of the full life cycle, including all the way through to disposal as well. So with that all being said, John, I'd like to start by asking you a few questions, not to put you on the spot by any means, but talk to us a little bit about really how it was before you guys implemented TipWeb IT, and then what has the system been able to do for you as far as tracking devices? So like with and then without the software, and now that you have the software, keeping track of those mobile devices, how is that improved utilizing TipWeb IT, our asset management software?
Well, and I think that probably I'm kind of a unique case because I've been with this district for 2 years now. So the first year we did not have TipWeb, and the second year we've had TipWeb, and that I feel like gave me a little bit of an advantage because I wasn't so totally entrenched in an old system that it was hard for me to go to a new system. But moving to TipWeb was definitely, it's made things a lot easier. How we were doing it before was kind of, patchwork of Excel spreadsheets, that kind of stuff. And, it worked. We were able to do what we needed to do through that. But it was cumbersome. And really and truly where I came from before working for schools, it's like I've done work for State Farm, and the whole asset tag thing was really kind of crucial to that, and seeing us be able to use that now in the school district, it's made tracking where we can tell right away if somebody contacts us and or I'm trying to think of a good scenario. Well, I mean, actually say there was somebody that needed a laptop for summer classes, and we were going to issue them one because of COVID-19, we have all of our middle school and elementary schoolers don't bring home laptops, so we gave them the opportunity to loan out a laptop from the high school. And we had one of those requests from one of our high schoolers. Then I looked and found, I was able to go to TipWeb and find out that they've actually they owe us quite enough money for a new laptop because they destroyed a laptop, and they had also been given a loaner of one of our older laptops that we really weren't too concerned about. And now they're asking for essentially a third one, but without TipWeb, it would have been really, really hard to figure that out. With that, we were just able to, put the student's name in there and see instantly that, they owe us, they have an invoice, an outstanding invoice. And then we can see, well, what happened with that? And we can see that, that machine is actually over in our storage facility, and it's on the, actually those ones that are still in limbo, I have on a separate shelf that are kind of, they're waiting to be whatever. I mean, because if the student pays for, or the parent pays for the laptop, what I do is I offer them, I will send you the laptop, because if you're going to pay for it, even though it's destroyed, you can have it. I haven't had anybody that's wanted one, but that's still, you know, that's why I kind of keep them over there, and then they'll transition into the parts, you know, parts department. But with that, we were able to see that, you know, no, this person, we probably need to find out, you have the principal reach out and find out where this other laptop that we issued them probably a month or so ago went, and go from there before we issue them any more of our assets. So.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about being able to assess the fees, because even if you're a district that doesn't want to charge students any fees, whether or not you charge them or not, you actually, that creates a nice report. So it sounds like you were able to make some decisions based on that type of reporting and clarity. So that, I appreciate you sharing that story. So John, talk to us a little bit about how things have changed with remote learning.
Well, it's the biggest thing is, and now we kind of had a little bit of an advantage because most of our high school, or all of our high schools are issued laptops, so they technically have one that they can use. Being a rural district, it's been a little bit different because of students that have viable internet connections at home. And there's a lot that have HughesNet, which is the satellite DirecTV or whatever it is, internet connection. And we found that sometimes that will work, but as long as that's the only, that students basically the only thing they're doing on that connection is their work, and nobody else is doing anything else on the network, it might work, but it still has issues. But probably one of the biggest things has been quickly we realized that so much of our stuff is computer-based that we needed to issue laptops to basically, you know, anybody who wanted it. We were able to, we have it set up to where if you have a personal laptop at home, you can get to your information through that. But if you don't, then you could loan one out from us. And we use TipWeb to keep track of, you know, where they were going, taking those laptops. We had cart laptops that we were basically pulling from for those loaners. And we were able to go into that cart and pull those from the cart, because the cart is essentially, you know, it's assigned to that cart. So then pull it from that cart. We set up essentially a separate room, which was just our COVID-19 loans virtual room. We didn't have, it was just through TipWeb. That way we knew we moved those into there. We moved those into there, and then we can track who they went to, what student had them, and it's made it a lot easier, and we can kind of tell right away. We can look at it and tell how many laptops we have out, and then how many right now how many we've recouped, because right now it's kind of one of those situations where there's a couple students, like I said, still need them, but we're just kind of getting them in as they come in. And so far we're at about 52%, I think it is, of them have come back, but we're about ready to start calling people. So
gotta use that phone. So
yep.
So now talk to me about the integrations. You guys have an integration set up with your SIS, is that correct? What I mean by that is when you guys go to check a device out to a student, the student's information automatically populates within TipWeb IT coming over to the integration system.
Correct. With Skyward is connected to it, and that's what happens. It takes, for instance, if a new student comes to the district, they'll come in, their information comes in straight from Skyward, which is our student records. And then it takes, I found it takes a day or so from whenever they get in there, but how it was handled before, essentially we had to pull a Skyward file and then pull that into our spreadsheet, and it was cumbersome. But this way, even now, I can, if a student comes in, I can get their information kind of set up and just kind of set myself a reminder to check TipWeb tomorrow, make sure the student's there, boom, and then I can issue them the laptop right from our inventory, and it's a lot faster.
Absolutely. Now, when you guys are assigning devices out to students, we'll talk a little bit on this slide here. So the second one, talking about distributing devices. When you're assigning devices out to students, are you guys utilizing the digital receipts that they can sign?
We haven't yet, but that's something that I am looking to put into practice whenever they start picking up their laptops for this year. It would have been nice to have had those, to have had everything set up and in place at the beginning of the year beginning of the school year last year, but we didn't actually totally get our system completely into TipWeb until school had already started.
Okay.
So I really kind of wanted to start this process whenever we started collecting laptops, but that's been totally different because of COVID-19. I haven't seen a student yet. I mean, we've had them drop off. They get dropped off at the front office, and that really kind of eliminates being able to pull it up and have them sign it and do anything like that. Right now we're just kind of taking them in as they come in, and we're going from there. But whenever the ones that we do have come in, and whenever they get reissued at the beginning of the year, with our district, the students will keep the same laptop all 4 years. And that way, if they mess up the laptop, they pull keys off the keyboard, then that's theirs that they have to deal with. So it's not really kind of pulling it in, totally collecting it and throwing it back in inventory. What I've done is I'll pull it in and I'll mark it down and say it's in for repair. So that way I can see all the ones that are in for repair. And then whenever we issue them back out, that's something that's where I'm probably going to start doing that. So that way, we haven't had a whole lot of problems, but we do have the occasional problem in our district. Again, it's very few and far between, but where a student will say, well, I turned in my laptop but I don't have one. And before it was really, we kind of have a spreadsheet and we can look and see if they signed for it. It was in finding out what actually happened. We could do it, but it just took a lot more time and it was a lot more headaches. With this, we can actually look at it and see, we show that you got this, whenever, because it's been the case now with newer students. I was able to experience it more with a new student. They got this laptop, they got it on this day, but the sign forms, that's really something that we're kind of going to be using this coming year, and I think it'll be a great thing because we'll be able to give them kind of that accountability where yes, you've signed for it, here it is, and it's really easy to produce that documentation for whoever might need it.
Yeah, what else is nice about that signed digital receipt feature is because you have that SIS integration, as long as the parent's email and contact info is in the SIS coming over, that will automatically get emailed out to the parents as well. So they can see that their child will just receive their laptop or their Chromebook and their charger and all that. So it's definitely looking forward to you guys implementing that feature as well. So one of the bigger concerns from a lot of school districts when they're considering implementing a new software, not just Hays, but any software that's out there, is making sure that it's at least user-friendly enough so that their staff can learn it quickly, because we understand that systems are only as good as how often people are using those systems. Can you talk to us a little bit about just the ease of use within TipWeb IT, the user friendliness for anyone that may be a little nervous about their site level staff learning how to use the software?
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's really it's very easy. I mean that's the getting stuff initially put into it was probably the harder part, and it really wasn't that bad. But as far as everyday use, like being able to pull up a student, it's essentially and I haven't. I don't know of anybody else in the district that's using it, but I also have the app on my phone. So that way, whenever I'm out walking around, if I find a laptop just laying around, I can punch in the asset tag from the bottom of the computer that we have on there, and it'll tell me exactly whose computer that is. And then I can get that back to them, or I can bring it up to the front office and say, hey, Joe left his computer in the cafeteria. Please have him come up and pick it up. That way it kind of, but I mean, it's just really those asset tags. If you have a computer come in, you can just, from the TipWeb application, just up in the corner, you put in the asset tag number and it'll pull it right up. And if I've had a couple situations where maybe that asset tag got peeled off, and if I can get to the serial number, go into the BIOS and get the serial number, or if the serial number is still on the bottom of the computer, and put in that serial number and it'll pull it back up, and then I can, write the asset tag in Sharpie on the bottom or whatever I need to do. But it's really simple. It really is.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And real quick, one last thing about the ease of use side. Can you talk a little bit about your experience when you guys first went through training, being trained on the software?
Yeah, no, I can. We got together at the district office and kind of, and we did a, essentially just put it up on the projector and sat there on the speakerphone and went through, and it really kind of, I kind of had an idea what it might be about because I did some of the reading beforehand, but
sure.
Having someone kind of really explain, how that works. And there was how will we handle the different room numbers and the different buildings and all this kind and just little things that you think, oh well, but we really were able to kind of talk to somebody and address that and figure out exactly how we were going to do it, to where if you go from like my school to another school, all you really have to do is it's building number, room number, and it's super simple. I mean, it was, but I don't think that without that training component, that initial onboard training component, it would have been a lot more difficult, because we would have had 5 people kind of thinking of different ways that it should be done, and then it would have probably made it a little bit more difficult to have everything be kind of totally the same. And it's but no, it was definitely a positive thing.
Gotcha. I appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to shift the conversation a little bit. Would like to learn a little bit about how you guys are supporting students, because obviously with remote learning, you got kids that are going to have devices at home. Now, I know that you guys already had devices going home with kids. So if a student has, trouble, are they able to reach out to technicians directly? How are your technicians adapting to everything that's going on right now?
Well, I know with me, we have a help desk set up that lets the students, they can get to it through the district portal, or they can email us directly at our help desk at mygcsd.org, and that'll come into the queue, and that allows them to get kind of into the help desk ticket system. I've also set up, because different now. I mean, how it was before, I didn't really have any outside communication, like as far as email or anything with parents. That was always something that I left up to the front office. If a parent had a question or a problem or anything like that, they could talk to, the front office. And now with the COVID-19 stuff, I've really kind of shifted that and have a separate number set up to where parents and students can call or text or do whatever if they have issues.
Oh, nice.
And we try to address them. And we try to address them as quickly as possible because I think that at least initially, especially, it was really kind of important to let them know that somebody was there, right. even if I didn't know what the problem exactly was, just kind of to let them know that we'll figure it out. It's going to get taken care of, and it's been different and kind of a learning as we go kind of a thing, but it seems to have worked pretty well. We also use kind of a remote software to where we can monitor our students and also provide kind of if they have issues. Sometimes we had students that had software that needed to be installed on their computer that they didn't necessarily need whenever they were at school because that software was on a desktop in like the Business Academy lab. So now they're needing software installed, so they don't have admin rights, obviously. But we were able to, remote to their computer, get the software installed, and that was it. Or go on and show them, okay, you're going to have to drop your computer off. It's not that problem, and it's been different. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing. I was going to get into any new processes, but you covered it. So really appreciate that. So now, John, I know that you guys don't currently have our help desk software, and that's okay. But for the folks who are tuning in, so the name of our help desk ticketing software is called Get Help. And you're probably wondering why I keep looking over there because this is where my big screen is, just so you all know. But so Get Help is actually integrated in with TIP Web IT. So the benefit with that is as tickets are coming in from staff and students and your technicians are opening those tickets, working on them, logging all their notes, their ticket notes, and then submitting everything and closing it all out, what it's doing is it's also updating the asset history on the asset management side as well. So they're not having to go log in and put any type of repair notes in the asset history. So that way it's all integrated in. What's also nice is when the student or staff member submit the support ticket, whatever is assigned out to them, it'll populate right in the ticket automatically. So they just click on the device that's assigned to them, populates all the device details, serial number, tag number, whatever it is, the name of the device, into the ticket, greatly reducing the amount of time it takes for the end user to create the ticket. Also, it helps to eliminate potential user error of mistyping or just leaving out any information. So we all know that end users sometimes don't like submitting support tickets if it takes too long because it's easier just to send a quick email. Speaking of emailing tickets, our software also works with email. So if they do send a ticket via email, there's a unique email address where they can send it to an email and it automatically creates a ticket in the software as well. Furthermore, we do integrate with Google SSO as well as ADFS. So if you have a single sign-on at your district, that will work with the help desk as well. We're finding that this is super important for students during everything going on right now with COVID-19 because you have kids at home with devices, and just like what John, what you were sharing, they need things such as different types of software installed on their devices that they have on the desktops within the schools. So having a system with a single sign-on where they can get in, submit support tickets, and get help quickly is really, really is quite helpful. So back to our Q&A, John. Share with us a little bit about how are you guys closing out the school year? Have you already closed out the school year? Is school done where you guys are at? I know different districts are still in session.
Oh yeah, no, we're done. We're in our kind of summer mode right now, and the biggest change right now is this time last year, I'd say we probably had 95+% of our one-to-one high school laptops, in our labs, ready to be updated, all that kind of stuff. Now we're at like 30. I think our last look was at 32%. So that's really kind of a different thing. And there are processes that we have to, update over the summer that eventually the laptops that are out there will lose their internet connection. So that'll be part of the beginning of the year process. I'm actually developing a letter or email to go home to parents and students, kind of letting them know that they need to get that laptop into us so we can get it updated. And otherwise it's, the beginning of the year, they're all going to come in there and nobody's going to be able to get onto the network, and there will be hundreds of laptops that are sitting there to be updated, and they probably won't have their laptop for a couple weeks. And it's just something that they need to be made aware of. But I will be using the TipWeb system with the integration with email. I can pull a list really quickly of ninth graders, and I can look at their status. If they're not listed as in for repair, then I know that they need to get an email or a phone call. However we decide to do it, I just know that calling everybody is not going to be as easy. So
no, it's a lot of phone calls. Well, that makes sense. So so utilizing TipWeb IT, it just makes it a little bit easier to be able to run a quick report and pull a report of every student that has a device that's in use rather than in repair.
Yep, that's it.
Appreciate you sharing that. So moving on, and John, I doubt you even know about this, but something that we as a company recently started offering through a partner company of ours is sanitization services, along with internal inventory services. We've offered inventory for several years, but sanitization is obviously something that has become more important for obvious reasons. So there's a few different options when it comes to sanitization. A lot of districts are looking at it for just sanitizing devices. So we have about a 24-minute process that our team they'll come on site and they sanitize each device. But it's not just simply wiping the exterior of the device down. They have the right type of equipment to get into the ports, to get into all little nooks and crannies of the keyboard, into the little into the hinges of where the laptop opens and closes. So it's an extensive process. What's also nice is they use EPA-approved green certified agents. That way it's safe. Plus, I hate to say it, but there's always that one student who eats their lunch off their Chromebook. So nothing is dangerous for the student to if they ingest anything. In addition to devices, there are some districts that want to have their school buses sanitized, as well as entire buildings, schools, or even the district buildings. So these are different options available. With the device sanitization, our team optionally can also handle the full check-in process. So they can check all the devices in, sanitize them as they're checking them in. That way staff is not at risk in any way, shape, or form. So that's just a little bit about our sanitization services. So another thing I want to talk about is the fun stuff, inventory audits and having accurate data. I kind of made a joke earlier about if the Title I ferry shows up. So in addition to the sanitization, we do offer inventory services where we have a third party come in. If they're doing the sanitization, they can do the inventory count while they're doing the sanitization, but that's not a requirement, that's just an option. But they'll go through and they'll literally do a full inventory count of whatever needs to be inventoried. And you'll get we'll be able to upload that right into TipWeb IT to get a very clean, basically to clean your data so you have it exactly, correct exactly the way that you need it to be. God forbid you are audited by Title I or anyone else. So another thing we're going to talk about is forecasting. Now, John, I understand, Aaron Wiley is your the tech director over there. So this may be more up his alley. But do you have any insight into predicting upcoming refreshes or the reports that you guys run for forecasting? And I don't expect that you do, but you may know a little bit about how that works.
Well, some of what, let's see here. I don't know. I don't know the whole process, but I do know that, we have, with our ninth graders coming in, we have new computers that are being purchased. Certainly, they'll have computers when they come in, and that'll start them off in TipWeb. But then we also have seniors that, whenever they graduate, they get to take their laptop with them. So that's that's the end of the life for those. However, they don't have to take them. They can choose to leave them with us, and essentially they just say no, they don't want it, and then that goes back into our inventory as either a spare or parts or whatever condition that laptop is in. Maybe it's been beat up a lot over the last 4 years, so it's really only viable for parts, but we'll have a good amount of parts left for those computers, that model that we still have in use. So but as far as predicting it or anything like that, that's really kind of Aaron's end. That's not me.
No, absolutely. That's what I was figuring. So, and the next two things on the slide here, empowering administrators with complete visibility, as well as maintaining oversight and control over district assets. Really just through this conversation, you've given us a lot of examples on just the visibility that you have into what you have, where it is, who has it, especially the example when you found a laptop and you're able to figure out exactly whose it was, even if they ripped the tag off of it, you can still pull it up by the serial number, as well as when you had shared with us about when what was it, the student, you had a situation where a student had a lot of fees that they owed, and they actually owed more than almost the amount of a brand new laptop as it was. So I think you've given us some really good examples. Is there anything else you'd like to share in reference to just overall visibility compared to the system that you guys previously had in place?
I think probably the best thing is just kind of having that one interface where you can go get, I can go into that interface and get the information on that computer. I can pull it up and I can check I can look through the status updates on it to see, okay, where did I see this started with this kid, and then it went to this kid, or whatever happened there. And I can do the same thing with staff. I can look and see there was a laptop that was still showing up that was in inventory, but I couldn't find it, so I looked it up, and it was actually a teacher that had retired, and that laptop it ended up being on the shelf in our storage room. However, it was put there before the whole TipWeb process got put into place. But I was able to look at that was the one that we didn't have, so I knew it had to be somewhere probably logical, because I didn't think it got stolen, and went over there, and yeah, there it was. So it was just you being able to use it to kind of help troubleshoot and kind of do a little bit of detective work. It makes it a lot easier than just going through the way that we were doing it, which going through Excel spreadsheets or anything like that, going through some kind of pieced together database kind of thing. It was really having it all together in one place was nice.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for sharing. So as we move forward, just want to share with those of you joining us from different districts, this is just a quick snapshot of some of the school districts that we work with in the Southeast region. For sake of time, I'm not going to name them all off, but you can see for yourself. Of course, we will announce Gilchrist County School District in the top right corner. So, John,
exactly.
appreciate you coming on today. Your time is very valuable to us, and I'm sure it's valuable to yourself as well. So really do appreciate it. And the next slide is, these are actually the account managers from Hayes Software. Blake Sobel, Chris McDowell, myself, Heather Hughes, Kristen Burrows, John McInerney. I love John's last name, McInerney. It's like there's 3 of them. Skylar Romo also is Tony Romo's cousin. Starla Langston and Ty Pearson. So that's your team from Hayes Software. So with that being said, that is all we have today. I'd like to open it up for any questions from anyone who's joining us today, if there are any questions. And Kristen, I know you're monitoring the chat. I don't know if we have any questions in the chat.
We don't have anything in chat. Everybody's pretty quiet. Probably soaking it all in.
We went through a lot of information with John, so. We'll give our visitors another minute to unmute if they have any questions to ask.
Thank you for the information. It's been interesting. Sorry I had to be in and out.
Oh, no problem, Mary.
Thanks for joining us, Mary.
Joining us. Well, folks, that's going to conclude our discussion today. If you want to learn a little bit more, definitely reach out to whoever invited you. You can respond to the original email invite. Our account managers are usually very, very good about making themselves reachable. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We'd love to have similar discussions with you in your district and see how Hayes can help you as well. So with that said, we are all done. Thank you guys for joining us, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and a blessed weekend.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.